Hey warriors, welcome back to the channel. You ever notice how the moment you start caring about money, people start questioning your character? That's not coincidence, it's conditioning. You were taught to feel guilty for wanting leverage because financially independent people are harder to control. They told you money changes people, but what it really does is expose them, and the ones who judge it the loudest are usually the most dependent on it. This is where most people lose the game before it even begins. Not because they don't work hard, not because they lack intelligence, but because they internalize a silent rule. Wanting power over resources makes you selfish. That rule doesn't sound like oppression. It sounds like morality. And morality, when weaponized, is one of the most effective tools of control ever invented. From a young age, you were trained to admire sacrifice, not leverage. Effort, not outcomes. Fairness, not advantage. You were praised for struggling honorably, not for escaping the struggle entirely. So you learned to equate financial discomfort with virtue and financial ambition with corruption. That belief didn't come from wisdom. It came from systems that need you dependent. Before we go any further, pause and subscribe. Not as a habit, but as a decision. Because what follows will dismantle emotional conditioning around money that most people protect their entire lives. Here's the first truth you are never encouraged to see clearly. Wealth is not a reward for effort. It's a consequence of leverage. Effort keeps you busy. Leverage changes your position. Most people never build wealth because they confuse movement with progress. They stay exhausted, morally validated, and financially stationary. Machiavelli understood this centuries ago. Men judge more by the eye than by the hand. People don't care how hard you work. They care about results. But society praises effort publicly while rewarding leverage privately. That contradiction is deliberate. It keeps you focused on activity while others quietly position themselves above the flow of labor. Think about the advice you hear most often. Just work harder. Be patient. Pay your dues. None of that advice is wrong, but it's incomplete. It tells you how to endure the system, not how to rise above it. Endurance is celebrated because it keeps the system stable. Escape is discouraged because it threatens the hierarchy. This is where fear enters. Fear of being judged. Fear of being labeled greedy. Fear of losing relationships if your income outpaces the people around you. Fear of becoming different. That fear isn't accidental. It's social pressure designed to keep wealth concentrated among those willing to tolerate being misunderstood. Watch what happens when someone openly pursues money, not desperately, but strategically. The tone changes. People question motives. They warn about losing yourself. They invoke balance, humility, values. These words sound noble, but beneath them is anxiety. Because money doesn't just buy comfort, it buys autonomy. And autonomous people don't obey easily. Most people choose approval over autonomy. They choose to be liked instead of being free. And that choice feels harmless, until years pass and financial stress becomes chronic. Then resentment builds, not toward the system, but toward those who escaped it. That resentment fuels the very guilt that kept them stuck. You've seen this resentment play out in subtle ways, a joke disguised as concern, a warning framed as advice, a story about someone who lost themselves chasing money. These narratives aren't random, they're defenses. They protect people from confronting the uncomfortable truth that wealth requires separation, from norms, from comfort, from collective approval. This is where guilt tightens its grip. Guilt tells you that wanting leverage makes you disloyal, that prioritizing yourself is abandonment, that thinking strategically is cold. Guilt feels moral, but it functions like a leash. It keeps you close to the group, even when the group is financially stagnant. And stagnation, when shared, feels safe. Machiavelli understood this mechanism long before modern economics. Men are driven by two principal impulses: love and fear. Love binds you to approval. Fear warns you of rejection. Wealth requires you to manage both without being ruled by either. Most people can't. They let love dictate their choices and fear veto their ambition. Notice how early this conditioning begins. You're praised for sharing, not for owning, for cooperating, not for controlling outcomes, for being fair, not for being effective. These lessons are useful for social harmony, but disastrous for wealth creation. Markets don't reward harmony, they reward positioning. Positioning sounds manipulative until you realize everyone is already positioned, consciously or not. Employees are positioned beneath employers, consumers beneath owners, renters beneath landlords. If you don't choose your position deliberately, you inherit one by default, and default positions rarely lead to wealth. This is where awareness deepens. You begin to see that money isn't just currency, it's a vote for how your time is used, a vote for what you tolerate, a vote for what you're allowed to walk away from. Without money, your votes are limited. With it, your options expand. Options are power. Yet most people are taught to distrust options. They're told too many choices make you greedy. That security lies in stability, but stability without leverage is fragility in disguise. One setback, one decision made by someone above you, one policy change, and everything you've built can disappear. Fear keeps people from confronting this. It's easier to believe the system is fair than to accept that it's indifferent. It's easier to moralize poverty than to admit dependence. So people cling to effort narratives. They work harder, they wait longer, they hope. Hope is comforting. It's also passive. You're beginning to replace hope with strategy. Strategy doesn't care how things should be. It deals with how they are, and how they are is simple. Those who control assets control outcomes. Labor alone doesn't scale. Ownership does. Distribution does. Systems do. This realization creates tension inside you, a split between who you were taught to be and who you now see you must become. That tension is necessary. It's the friction that burns off illusions. Without it, you'd retreat back into moral comfort and financial dependence. As this awareness settles, you stop asking whether wealth is good or bad. You ask whether dependence is acceptable, whether being controlled by circumstances is virtuous, whether sacrificing autonomy for approval is noble or just familiar. This is the quiet moment where the old rules begin to loosen. You haven't acted yet. You haven't changed anything externally. But internally, the hierarchy has shifted. Guilt no longer sits at the top. Clarity does. And once clarity outranks guilt, the path forward starts to reveal itself. That path doesn't appear all at once. It sharpens gradually as you stop outsourcing your judgment. You begin questioning advice you once accepted without friction. You notice how often "be grateful" is used to quiet dissatisfaction. How "play it safe" is offered by people who never escaped risk themselves. Safety, you realize, is a narrative sold to those expected to stay in place. Machiavelli warned that appearances rule human behavior more than truth. Wealth threatens appearances because it exposes incentives. People say money doesn't matter, yet structure their entire lives around it. They condemn ambition while chasing comfort. This contradiction survives because few are willing to confront it honestly. You are. You start seeing how systems reward those who detach emotionally. The calm negotiator wins over the desperate one. The patient buyer outperforms the rushed spender. The owner who can walk away commands better terms than the worker who cannot. Emotional detachment isn't cruelty. It's leveraged discipline. This is where most people misstep. They mistake detachment for greed or lack of empathy. But detachment simply means your emotions don't get to sabotage your strategy. You can still care. You just don't let caring override clarity. You understand now that uncontrolled emotion is the easiest point of manipulation. Think about how often urgency forces bad decisions. A bill due, a job threatened, a relationship strained. Urgency narrows vision. It pushes people into reactive choices that preserve the short term while damaging the long term. Wealth is built by those who reduce urgency before it reduces them. You do that by building buffers, time buffers, financial buffers, emotional buffers. Buffers create space. Space creates choice. Choice creates power. Without buffers, even intelligent people act foolishly. With them, average people make smart moves. Wealth isn't about brilliance. It's about positioning yourself so mistakes don't destroy you. This is why guilt is so effective at keeping people poor. Guilt makes you feel undeserving of buffers. It convinces you that saving aggressively is selfish, that negotiating hard is unfair, that thinking ahead is cold. Guilt strips you of the very protections wealth requires. As you loosen guilt's grip, you notice a change in your behavior. You stop rushing to prove good intentions. You stop over-explaining financial decisions. You stop seeking approval for wanting stability, growth, or independence. Silence replaces justification. Silence unnerves people who rely on emotional reactions to maintain control. Machiavelli observed that those who wish to command must first command themselves. Here, self-command means restraint, not reacting to judgment, not defending your motives, not absorbing moral pressure meant to slow you down. You let people believe what they want. You continue building. This is where empowerment quietly begins. Not with wealth itself, but with permission. Permission you give yourself to think strategically without shame, to pursue leverage without apology, to acknowledge that money is a tool, not a verdict on your character. You don't feel reckless, you feel grounded. Your decisions become calmer because they're no longer tangled in emotional debates. You start seeing opportunities others overlook because they're busy negotiating with guilt. You evaluate risk rationally instead of emotionally. You accept calculated exposure instead of permanent limitation. This shift is subtle, but it's irreversible. Once you see how emotion governs financial outcomes, you can't unsee it. You understand now that wealth doesn't begin with numbers, it begins with emotional sovereignty. And that sovereignty is what you're building next. That sovereignty changes how you experience pressure. Financial pressure used to feel personal, almost moral, as if struggling proved something about your character. Now you see it for what it is, a signal of positioning. Pressure isn't a verdict, it's information. It tells you where dependence still exists and where leverage is missing. You begin noticing how often people romanticize struggle. Stories about paying dues, earning it the hard way, building character through hardship. These stories sound noble, but they normalize exposure. They make vulnerability feel virtuous. Machiavelli would have recognized this immediately. Romanticizing weakness keeps power concentrated. Those at the top don't glorify hardship. They insulate against it. Insulation is not laziness, it's foresight. Wealth is simply the ability to reduce friction before it becomes crisis. That reduction requires thinking ahead, acting early, and ignoring the emotional noise that tries to shame preparation. You're no longer ashamed of wanting stability. You're ashamed of pretending instability is noble. This awareness reframes risk for you. You stop thinking of risk as danger and start seeing it as uneven distribution. Who bears the downside? Who captures the upside? Average thinking accepts downside personally, while upside remains abstract. Strategic thinking reverses that. You limit downside first. You expose yourself only where recovery is possible. This is why leverage matters. Leverage lets small actions produce outsized effects. Ownership, systems, skills that scale, these are leverage. Working harder at the same level is not. That distinction alone explains why effort alone rarely builds wealth. Effort is linear. Wealth is non-linear. Machiavelli understood non-linear power. He saw that influence compounds quietly when positioned correctly. The same is true with money. A well-placed asset outperforms years of labor misapplied. Yet people are taught to distrust this idea because it undermines the moral comfort of hard work narratives. As you internalize this, your financial thinking becomes colder but clearer. You stop asking, "Is this fair?" and start asking, "Is this sustainable?" Fairness is subjective. Sustainability is structural. Structures outlast feelings. They persist when moods change and opinions turn. You also notice how people react when you speak less about money but act more decisively around it. Fewer conversations, more observation. People sense the shift. They may not know what changed, but they feel it. You're no longer seeking advice. You're executing decisions. Execution creates quiet authority. There's a moment here where loneliness may surface. Not social loneliness, but strategic loneliness. You realize most people can't relate to how you're thinking now. Conversations feel shallow. Complaints sound repetitive. This isn't arrogance. It's divergence. You're playing a different game. Machiavelli warned that innovators often walk alone until results speak. You accept that. You stop trying to convert others to your perspective. Conversion wastes energy. Results communicate without words. Let time do the explaining. At this stage, discipline replaces motivation entirely. You don't wait to feel inspired. You act because action maintains position. Positioning is continuous. If you stop, gravity pulls you back toward dependence. You don't fear that gravity anymore. You respect it. So you keep building buffers. Cash buffers, skill buffers, network buffers. Each one reduces urgency. Each one increases optionality. Optionality is the quiet definition of wealth. Not luxury, not display, choice. And with that understanding, you cross a threshold. Money is no longer emotional. It's functional. A means of protecting your time, your energy, your decisions. The guilt that once slowed you down has nothing left to say. With guilt quieted, your thinking becomes more surgical. You stop absorbing financial narratives that aren't built for outcomes. You hear phrases like, "Money isn't everything," and recognize them as emotional coping, not strategy. Money isn't everything, but the absence of it turns everything into a negotiation. You've lived that reality. You're done pretending otherwise. This is where most people stall. They intellectually understand leverage, but emotionally they hesitate. They wait for permission, for certainty, for reassurance that they won't be judged if they move differently. That hesitation is the final chain, and it only breaks when you accept a hard truth. Wealth requires acting before consensus forms. Machiavelli knew that waiting for approval is how power is surrendered. Those who move early are misunderstood. Those who move late are applauded, but they inherit smaller rewards. Timing matters more than comfort. You're learning to tolerate the discomfort of early action. You also notice how often people sabotage wealth by over-identifying with money emotionally. They swing between obsession and avoidance, desperation when they lack it, guilt when they pursue it, euphoria when they gain it, panic when they lose it. These emotional spikes create inconsistent behavior. Inconsistency destroys compounding. You choose neutrality instead. Money becomes data, a signal, a scoreboard, not a self-worth meter. This emotional flattening is not indifference, it's control. It allows you to stay rational when others spiral. Rationality under pressure is where advantage is created. Your decisions slow down, but your progress accelerates. You don't jump at every opportunity. You filter. You ask better questions. Who controls distribution? Where does value accumulate over time? What scales without proportional effort? These questions quietly eliminate 90% of distractions. Average thinking chases income. Strategic thinking builds engines. Engines don't need motivation, they need maintenance. You start focusing on things that can run without constant input, systems, assets, skills with leverage. This shift feels uncomfortable because it removes the dopamine of working hard, but it replaces it with something stronger, momentum. You also see how fear disguises itself as caution. What if it fails? What if it takes too long? What if I look foolish? These questions sound reasonable, but they ignore the cost of inaction. Inaction feels safe today and expensive tomorrow. You start pricing tomorrow more accurately. This is where empowerment becomes behavioral. You allocate time differently. You protect thinking space. You invest before you feel ready. You accept temporary imbalance in exchange for long-term positioning. These aren't dramatic moves. They're quiet reallocations that compound. People around you may sense the shift but won't be able to name it. You're less reactive, less urgent, less available for emotional labor. That calm creates distance. Distance creates authority. Authority attracts opportunity. This sequence is invisible from the outside, but unmistakable from within. Machiavelli believed power consolidates when emotion stops dictating action. You're living that principle now. You're no longer driven by guilt, fear, or moral performance. You're driven by structure. Structure doesn't argue, it produces results. And with each result, small, quiet, repeatable, you reinforce a new identity. Not someone who wants wealth, but someone who operates in a way that makes wealth inevitable. Inevitability changes how you relate to patience. You're no longer waiting for something to happen. You're allowing it to unfold. That distinction matters. Waiting is passive. Allowing is active restraint. You know the systems you've put in place need time, not interference. So you stop micromanaging outcomes. You manage inputs instead. This is where most people self-sabotage. They touch things too early. They pull profits before structures stabilize. They abandon strategies at the first sign of boredom. Boredom feels like danger to the emotionally conditioned mind. But boredom is simply the absence of chaos, and chaos is what most people mistake for progress. Machiavelli understood that those who crave constant stimulation are easy to control. Noise distracts, drama exhausts. You've stepped away from both. Your environment grows quieter. Fewer notifications, fewer conversations, fewer opinions allowed access to your decisions. Silence becomes a strategic asset. Your relationship with risk continues to mature. You don't avoid it, you sequence it. Early risk when you can recover. Controlled exposure, not reckless leaps. You place yourself where upside remains open and downside is capped. This isn't fear, it's precision. Precision beats bravery every time. Notice how your emotional responses keep flattening. Wins don't inflate you. Losses don't break you. You record, adjust, continue. This emotional neutrality makes you unpredictable to people who rely on emotional leverage. They can't guilt you into poor decisions. They can't rush you with urgency. They can't flatter you into complacency. Their tools stop working. This is emotional warfare without conflict. You're not fighting anyone. You're simply not accessible through the usual channels. Control requires access. You've limited access. That alone shifts power. Machiavelli wrote that men more readily forget the death of a father than the loss of property. What he understood is that resources are emotional anchors. When you remove emotional volatility from money, you free yourself from the strongest manipulations people use. You're no longer ruled by fear of loss or hunger for gain. You also begin to notice how conversations around money sound hollow now. Complaints without strategy, opinions without experience, advice without skin in the game. You don't correct anyone. Correction invites resistance. You let reality teach instead. Reality is patient. It doesn't argue. This is where your confidence becomes internalized, not something you feel, but something you rely on. You trust your process because you've tested it. You trust your judgment because you've refined it. Doubt still appears, but it no longer dictates behavior. It informs, then steps aside. Your time horizon continues to stretch. You're thinking in years, not months. In positioning, not payouts. This long view gives you an advantage most people can't access because it requires emotional stability they haven't built. Stability isn't passive, it's trained. And as this stabilizes, something subtle shifts in how others respond to you. Fewer explanations demanded, more direct interactions. People sense you're not easily moved, not arrogant, anchored. Anchors change currents around them. You don't chase opportunities now, you prepare for them. Preparation looks boring from the outside. From the inside, it feels calm. Calm is where leverage lives. This is the stage where wealth stops being a goal and becomes a side effect, a byproduct of emotional discipline, strategic patience, and controlled exposure. You didn't hustle your way here, you detached your way here. And that detachment is what makes the next phase possible, where your position starts pulling results toward you instead of you chasing them. That pull is subtle at first. Opportunities don't announce themselves with fireworks. They arrive as conversations that feel slightly different, as doors that open without effort, as people who approach you with clarity instead of confusion. This isn't luck, it's positioning finally intersecting with time. You begin to notice how rarely you need to persuade now. Persuasion is a tool for those without leverage. Leverage speaks quietly. When your decisions are consistent and your behavior predictable, others adjust around you. They sense that you're not desperate. Desperation repels. Detachment attracts. Machiavelli understood that authority grows when people believe you can walk away. Walking away is power because it removes urgency. Urgency is what traps most people in bad deals, bad jobs, bad investments. You don't rush because you don't need to. You've built buffers. Buffers change everything. Your internal language continues to sharpen. You stop saying, "I hope," and start saying, "I'm building." Hope waits. Building proceeds. This shift removes anxiety because anxiety thrives on uncertainty. Structure reduces uncertainty. Even when outcomes are unknown, your process is stable. Stability calms the nervous system. A calm nervous system makes better decisions. This is where many people misinterpret your behavior. They may think you've become distant or less emotional. In reality, you've become less manipulable. You still feel, you just don't broadcast. Emotional broadcasting invites interference. Silence protects momentum. You also recognize how wealth is less about accumulation and more about insulation. Insulation from panic, from pressure, from the need to accept unfavorable terms. Money buys time to think, time to wait, time to say no. Those three things, think, wait, refuse, are the real luxuries. Your tolerance for short-term discomfort has increased dramatically. You can sit with uncertainty without reacting. You can watch opportunities pass without chasing them. You can delay gratification without feeling deprived. This tolerance is rare. It's also the foundation of long-term advantage. Average people react to stimuli, offers, fears, opinions. You respond to strategy. That difference compounds quietly. Over months, then years, the gap widens. Not because you're smarter, but because you're steadier. Machiavelli wrote that fortune favors those prepared to act decisively when the moment arrives. Preparation is invisible. Decisiveness is brief. Most people want the moment without the preparation. You prepared without applause. That's why your decisiveness feels calm instead of frantic. You begin to trust yourself more deeply, not in a motivational sense, but in a structural one. You know that even if something fails, you won't collapse. You've built redundancy. You've limited downside. You've accepted that losses are part of positioning, not proof of incompetence. This trust removes fear's final leverage. Fear relies on the belief that failure is catastrophic. You've disproven that belief through preparation. Failure becomes data. Data improves systems. Systems produce outcomes. This loop replaces anxiety with learning. As this settles, you feel less need to talk about money at all. Those who have it rarely discuss it emotionally. Those who don't often moralize it. You've moved beyond both. Money is now functional, quiet, useful. And in that quiet, something important becomes clear. Wealth was never the destination. Control was. Control over your time, your decisions, your exposure to pressure. Wealth is simply the most efficient tool for achieving that control in a modern world. You're no longer building wealth to prove anything. You're building it to remain ungoverned by guilt, urgency, or manipulation. And once that intention locks in, the rest becomes execution. Calm, consistent, relentless. Execution feels different now. Not forceful, not frantic, just precise. You no longer confuse activity with advancement. Each move has a reason. Each pause has a purpose. This is what it feels like when you stop trying to look successful and start becoming effective. You also notice how your emotional reactions to money have almost disappeared. Not because you don't care, but because you understand it. Fear came from not knowing. Guilt came from conditioning. Both fade when clarity replaces them. You see money as a tool that amplifies structure, not as a judge of worth. That perspective keeps you steady when others oscillate. Machiavelli would call this the moment where fortune loses its mystique. People blame luck when outcomes feel random. Outcomes stop feeling random when you've positioned yourself correctly. What once looked like chance now looks like sequence. Sequence can be replicated. Replication is power. Your discipline around information tightens. You stop consuming noise. Opinions, hot takes, moral outrage about wealth. None of it helps execution. You choose sources that sharpen thinking, not emotions. Emotional content keeps people reactive. Analytical content builds leverage. This diet shift alone separates you from the average financial mindset. You also become harder to bait. Fear-based headlines don't move you. Urgent offers don't rush you. Social comparison doesn't destabilize you. You're anchored to your plan. Plans aren't rigid, but they are deliberate. Deliberateness removes panic. People around you may still struggle financially, and you feel empathy, but you don't absorb their stress. You've learned that absorbing stress doesn't solve it. Structure does. You help where it makes sense. You step back where it doesn't. This boundary protects both parties. Your sense of time continues to expand. You're no longer measuring progress by weeks or months. You think in cycles, phases, decades. This long horizon makes short-term volatility irrelevant. Markets move. People panic. You adjust, calmly. This calm begins to influence others indirectly. Not through advice, but through example. People notice you're not flustered when things tighten, not euphoric when things go well. That emotional neutrality signals something deeper than confidence. It signals preparation. Preparation is invisible until it isn't. When conditions shift, you're ready while others scramble. This isn't because you predicted everything. It's because you built resilience instead of chasing perfection. Resilience absorbs shock. Perfection shatters under pressure. You also recognize now that wealth creation is less about intelligence and more about temperament. Intelligent people fail financially all the time because they can't control impulse, fear, or ego. You've trained those muscles. That training compounds faster than IQ ever could. Machiavelli understood that men are ruined more often by their own emotions than by external enemies. You've neutralized that risk, not by suppressing emotion, but by refusing to let it dictate strategy. Emotion informs. Strategy decides. At this stage, even setbacks feel different. They don't threaten identity. They don't trigger panic. They prompt review, adjustment, continuation. This response pattern is rare. It's also the foundation of long-term wealth. You don't feel rich, you feel stable. Stable enough to think, stable enough to wait, stable enough to act decisively when the moment arrives. Stability is the soil wealth grows in. And now, with stability in place, the final phase approaches, the moment where everything you've built begins to reinforce itself, and wealth shifts from something you pursue to something that follows. You feel that reinforcement quietly taking hold. Systems begin feeding other systems. Decisions made months ago start paying dividends without your involvement. This is the point most people misunderstand. They think wealth accelerates because effort increases. In reality, effort decreases as structure matures. What increases is alignment. Everything starts pointing in the same direction. Your stress profile changes. Problems still exist, but they arrive earlier, smaller, and more manageable. You see them coming because you've built visibility into your situation. Visibility removes surprise. Surprise is what drains people emotionally and financially. Without surprise, pressure loses its bite. Machiavelli understood that those who control information control outcomes. You're doing that now, not through secrecy, but through awareness. You know where your exposure lies. You know what can break and what can bend. You've replaced blind faith with measured confidence. That alone puts you ahead of most people. You also notice how rarely you feel compelled to react publicly anymore. Outrage cycles pass without pulling you in. Financial noise loses relevance. You're not trying to win arguments, you're optimizing outcomes. Arguments are distractions for those without leverage. You've built leverage. You don't need the theater. This is where many people would be tempted to relax too much. To assume the work is done. You don't. You understand maintenance. Systems decay without attention. Relationships weaken without alignment. Capital misallocates without review. Wealth is not a destination. It's a condition that requires stewardship. Your stewardship is calm, not obsessive. You review periodically. You adjust when signals change. You don't tinker compulsively. Compulsion is fear in disguise. You act when the data tells you to, not when emotion demands it. That restraint preserves compounding. You also see clearly now why so many intelligent people remain financially fragile. They confuse complexity with progress. They over-engineer. They chase optimization before stability. You did the opposite. You stabilized first, then optimized. Stability gives optimization something to build on. This clarity affects how you choose partners, projects, and commitments. You're no longer impressed by ambition without discipline or vision without execution. You look for calm operators, people who think in systems, people who respect time. These people are rare, and they find each other. When setbacks occur, and they will, you notice how different your response is. No spiral, no self-blame, no urgency to fix everything now. You isolate the variable, you correct the input, you continue. This response preserves energy. Preserved energy compounds. You also recognize that wealth has quietly changed your social position, not in status, but in autonomy. You can decline without consequence. You can wait without anxiety. You can choose without explaining. This autonomy is the real dividend. Money simply made it possible. Machiavelli would recognize this moment as consolidation, the stage where power stops expanding outward and starts reinforcing inward. You're not seeking more noise. You're protecting coherence. Coherence makes systems resilient. Resilience makes outcomes durable. At this point, fear has little room left to operate. There's no single lever it can pull. No immediate threat that can force a bad decision. You've designed your life to absorb shocks. That design didn't come from brilliance. It came from emotional discipline applied consistently over time. And as this settles, one final understanding becomes unavoidable. Wealth was never about accumulation for its own sake. It was about removing pressure from your decisions. With pressure removed, you see clearly. With clarity, you choose well. With good choices repeated, results become inevitable. That inevitability is the quiet ending most people never imagine when they think about wealth. There's no dramatic finish line, no moment where everything suddenly feels different. What changes is how little pressure you feel making decisions. You're no longer choosing under threat. You're choosing from position, and position changes everything. You understand now why most people never build wealth. Not because they lack intelligence, opportunity, or effort, but because they never break free from emotional obedience. Guilt keeps them compliant. Fear keeps them cautious. Moral performance keeps them distracted. They confuse being good with being powerless, and they mistake struggle for virtue. You didn't eliminate fear, you outranked it. Fear still speaks, but it doesn't decide. It informs, then steps aside. That's emotional sovereignty, the prerequisite most people skip while chasing tactics. Tactics without sovereignty collapse under pressure. Sovereignty makes even simple tactics effective. This is where your behavior becomes self-reinforcing. You do the work whether anyone notices or not. You protect buffers before they're needed. You review systems before they break. These habits don't feel heroic. They feel normal now. Normal because you've trained yourself to value outcomes over appearances. Machiavelli understood this final truth clearly. Power isn't loud, and wealth doesn't need to be displayed. Display invites attention. Attention invites interference. Quiet systems outlast loud victories. You've chosen the quiet path, the one built on preparation, patience, and control. Notice how your thinking has simplified. Fewer emotional debates, fewer justifications, clearer priorities, clearer boundaries. You no longer ask, is this acceptable to others? You ask, does this improve my position? That single question filters everything. You also see the world differently now. You recognize emotional traps as they're set. Urgency meant to rush you, guilt meant to slow you. Moral arguments meant to distract you from leverage. None of it works the way it once did. You're not hostile to it, you're immune. This immunity doesn't make you cold, it makes you deliberate. You choose generosity when it strengthens systems, not when it weakens them. You choose restraint when noise tries to provoke reaction. You choose silence when explanation would cost momentum. Wealth, in the end, became exactly what Machiavelli would have predicted. Independence from manipulation. Independence from being forced into bad timing, bad deals, or bad compromises. Money didn't change your character. It removed the pressures that once distorted it. You didn't get here by hustling harder. You got here by detaching earlier, by refusing to let guilt write your financial story, by accepting that being misunderstood is often the price of freedom, by building leverage quietly while others debated morality loudly. Carry this forward as a discipline, not a revelation. Maintain the buffers, protect the focus, review the systems. Let compounding do what it does best, reward patience and punish noise. And before you go, seal this shift, subscribe, and comment or share what changed in how you see money now. Not to announce success, but to mark the moment you stopped letting guilt decide your financial future. Because once you understand Machiavelli's truth about wealth, there's no returning to emotional obedience.